I am Mazi KK Odeluga.
Mazi Ejikeme Obasi.
Na Mazi Oke Okachuku.
This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see.
Coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station.
Listen to us this and every Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it, coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. Today you're listening to Oke Okachuku, and my other co-host is on his way into the studio. We're going to also connect on the phone before he gets in here. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. We have a good show for you where we will discuss everything Africa on our Africa Saturday. So if you're listening to us on Facebook, we are hoping that when you're not on Facebook that you already have the WGHC app. If you're on iOS, it's just the WGHC app on iOS. And if you have Android or you're on a Windows machine, you could download the TuneIn app from your app store and listen to us by finding the WGHC 98.3 FM station. Thank you for joining us. And I have my other co-host on the phone now, Mazio Basi. Are you on?
Yes, Ndewono.
Ndewo, thanks for joining. So I was just doing the intros, and so today, the 23rd is now, we are into the summer of 2018. So we've gone through the seasons and we just went past spring and we're into the summer, which always tells me that we're almost done with the year. We're halfway through the year. This afternoon, there's a whole lot of things going on in the news, but I will rather dive into it than try to recount all the other news that you could probably Google and find yourself. So one of the things happening in Nigeria, where it's always happening, is we have the EFCC arrest Abaraibe, and what we're thinking, or at least the understanding is they've arrested him, or the police have searched his house and he's been arrested because he was the shorty for one Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who was arrested by the federal government, was put on trial for treason, and then they let him go, and one of his shorties for his release was Abaraibe. Mazi Obasi, you want to take it from here?
Well, yes. For a lot of the viewers in Nigeria, and actually people who have been following this story, we remember that Nnamdi Kanu was the head of MOB, which is a separatist movement asking to be for the creation of Biafra. And he was incarcerated by the federal government, never really brought to proper trial, was left in prison with two members of his group. Eventually, they were granted bail on the grounds that some people would stand shorty for him and pay a hefty amount of bail, which Senator Abaraibe was one of those who stood shorty for him, that he would not run away but would stay and face trial.
Yes.
Well, Nnamdi was in his house in Abaruku, Umuahia, when the Nigerian army felt it was necessary to invade his home. And since the invasion of his home by the Nigerian army, nobody knows the whereabouts of Nnamdi Kanu.
So
now, go ahead.
Before we go into the details, so I was trying to just get the background. So he was shorty for Nnamdi Kanu, who was on trial and was on bail. So he basically was one of the people certifying that he would be a part of his bail.
That he would. Yes.
But he was not the only one.
No, he was not the only one.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so do we know for certain that the federal government and their forces are going after him because of the bail?
That is the question. I am not sure because, to the best of my knowledge, it is still murky as to what is going on. Now, I was made to understand that he was basically in his home when security personnel moved in and they were searching his house. Now, what they are searching for in the house of a sitting senator, I don't know, but I have heard that it is not unconnected with this bail issue.
So
I am
they
still hoping that we will get clarification.
so they went to search his house, and we don't know if there was a search warrant, or nobody knows why they are searching his house.
Oh, I know that there was not a search warrant. He was not served with a search warrant.
They just showed up and started searching the house, which is so why I wanted to make that point is it is a
Yeah.
dangerous, I mean, it's not a precedent because it
Precedent.
happens it
Yeah.
happens a whole lot, but it's very dangerous for the citizens of the nation to keep quiet when the police could at any point in time just barge into your house and start searching your house without telling you what they are looking for, what they are searching, why they are searching, and with no court papers that say they could search your house. It's an invasion of privacy of the most terrible kind. It's worse than a thief coming into your house and holding you at gunpoint.
Well, yes, in this instance, the federal government is acting like a set procedures for things like this, and these procedures need to be followed. But again, we wait for clarification.
There's a newspaper that this day newspaper in Nigeria is reporting that Abaraibe is being arrested for aiding and abetting IPOB, and I'm wondering what does that really mean? What's the law against aiding and abetting an organization?
Well, primarily because IPOB was proscribed, and in the eyes of the federal government, it is a quote-unquote terrorist organization. But if that is the situation, why would they allow him to stand as surety for Nnamdi Kanu?
Right. And I mean, they said they are searching for ammunition. I'm reading the newspaper. They said they are searching for ammunition in his house and looking for Ghana Moscow bags. Nigeria is funny. But it is, I know I'm laughing, but it is the utmost violation of personal space and personal safety and wellness for the government to use their forces to invade a man's house without really having any grounds, not having any court papers, not having any reason to start doing that. So I think all well-meaning Nigerians who love peace and safety should not only demand that their government stop, but actually have actions that make the government stop. Because if it's happening now to one person, it's going to happen to two, to three, to any and everybody. You don't want a government that could do whatever they want, whenever they want, with impunity. And that's what I think it is, that the citizens are so quiet and have let the government run amok.
Yes.
So
the other part of it, of course, is that do we even know what it is they are actually going after him for? Because it seems to me, and let me first say that this is not necessarily a particular government, because I think this is now a Nigerian thing. You come in power and you use the instruments of state to go after your political enemies. And I think at some stage in the development of this country, there has to be a way to put a stop to this. The law cannot bend itself to the whim of whoever the president is. The law should be the law.
Yes, and so he is not the first and only person that this is happening to. If we remember a few weeks ago, or maybe a month and a few weeks ago, we referenced Dino Malaye, who was
Yes.
accosted by the Nigerian police and ended up in the hospital because they were trying to force him to go to some court or something. And we know
Yeah.
that these people have opposing views and have actually voiced those opposing views against the government.
Yeah.
And so for these to happen to these people, it is not just, I mean, it's not isolated. Even if it's for IPOB or even if it's for, it is because also that they are opposing the government, because there are better ways to do this than the violent ways that the government is choosing to pursue whatever it is that they are giving as excuses.
Yes, I actually think that one of the first serious reforms that needs to be had in that country is EFCC. Because EFCC is a joke. It is really, yes.
EFCC is a tool that every one of those governments, Obasanjo included,
Included, yes.
have used to go after whoever they don't like. If
It's a tool of political intimidation. Really.
Yes.
Yes.
EFCC is supposed to be economic and financial crimes. What is
Yes.
what if support of? I mean, how does that figure to what the government is saying, that if it's because he's supporting a prescribed organization, there is the normal police you could start with until you could prove that there's an economic and financial crimes. You can't start with economic and financial crimes when you're saying he's doing something that's criminal, that has nothing to do. You haven't proven or shown any cause to say that it's economical or financial. So EFCC has become a tool of intimidation, just like every arm of the Nigerian government. Every arm that they've called law enforcement has been an intimidating tool, has been a tool of oppression on the citizens of Nigeria.
Yes. Well, it has gotten to a stage where inquiring minds really want to know what is going on. I think that where we are right now, the government owes it to the citizens to let them know exactly what they are doing with their citizens. Because to go and arrest, if this can happen to a senator in Nigeria, what recourse do ordinary Nigerians have?
Right. Isn't there
No point.
there's a senior advocate of Nigeria, which is an association of all the lawyers.
Yes.
I am wondering what they are doing. If they are really advocates of Nigeria, this is where the advocacy is. This is when they should stand up and say to the government, you cannot flout our laws, and at the same time turn around and use the same law as an excuse to intimidate the citizens of Nigeria. We could go back to the Nnamdi Kanu case. He went before many courts who looked at the case and said, really, there is no reason to hold this guy, let him go. The government refused to let him go until they found the lawyer the judge that they wanted, that kept postponing the case. And eventually, they had no case, they had to give him bail. But they disobeyed the legal opinions and the legal judgments of the courts. And then they're using the same court and the same law enforcement as intimidation of the citizens. It doesn't make sense that you will say, this law doesn't apply to me, I will obey it when I want to, but then I'm going to turn around and say, oh, by the way, we are using the same law that I'm refusing to listen to oppress you. Doesn't make sense.
I think part of the problems we face in all of this is the fact that the country is so divided into different interests that things that we should come together as a nation to demand for change ends up being looked at again, primarily in ethnic coloration.
Ethnic lenses,
because,
right.
Yes, things like this, it does not benefit you, whether you are Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Efik, wherever you are in Nigeria. To have tyranny does not benefit the Nigerians. So these are things, you would hope that all people of conscience drawn across the length and breadth of the country would come out and strongly demand that government change.
Right. It's not just that the government starts searching senator houses, because in some cases it's okay for them to search it if they have the court order that says they could search it for a valid reason. But it's not okay for government to search anybody's houses, whether they are senators or not. Or it's not okay for the government to harass you and step into your house and your space, harass you and disturb you without justifiable cause. It is not something that's supposed to happen in a democracy, no matter who it is. It doesn't matter what part of the country you come from. The government should not be an oppressor to its citizens. The citizens actually are the ones that are directing the government, and therefore the government should always be at the behest of the citizens.
Absolutely. And to the extent that these things happen without consequence, that there, right there, is what breeds impunity. Because when law enforcement, when anybody feels that you can do whatever you like to do and get away with it in the country, why not? This is exactly what Fela was singing again. If we remember Fela,
yes,
when he said uniform, na cloth,
yes,
na person they wear them. Nobody in Nigeria should be against the law, and that includes those defending the law of, those that we are paying to uphold the law.
Right. Nobody is above the law. Nobody should flaunt the law and then use the same law against you.
Yes.
But so there are people in Nigeria who are looking at this, especially people in power. So the members of the same Senate, his colleagues are watching this, and they are the people that make the law. They should be advocating for the people. This is one of those things. This is why they are representing the people. This is when they should speak up and actually force the government to do the right thing in this case.
Yes.
Sitting Congress people, sitting senators should speak up and make sure that they do make the government act right for the citizens.
Yes, they should. They absolutely should.
Not just them, I think all the SANs, all the senior advocates of Nigeria, the reason that you actually study the law and interpret the law is for this. If you don't fight for the law of the country, then it's going to be anarchy. It's going to be a lawless place in a short while, because nobody's going. If anybody could fund the law, if anybody could do whatever they want with the law, or under the cloak of the law use the law against people just because they could, then it's not a law that anybody should be subject under. So I think the lawyers in Nigeria, the representatives of the people in Nigeria, should force this government to do the right thing.
Yeah, elections are coming soon. Unfortunately, things like this never come up as part of what we should be really looking at and talking about come election time.
Right, but
Because,
yes,
yes,
if we wait till election time, it's going to get muddied. This is something that should be taken care of right now. It shouldn't wait till election time. Election time is in 2019. That's 7 months from now.
no, I agree. No, but, I was just saying that if you had an electorate that would at least factor in things like this when it comes time to vote,
Yes.
maybe that in itself might also help mitigate some of this impunity.
I agree, but I think the electorate shouldn't wait for election. I think the
No,
electorate actually should.
absolutely not.
The advocacy should start now. The electorate should be on the streets. They should be in the government offices. They should be making phone calls to everybody in the government that they know. We can't have a docile electorate. If you do, then you're giving away your power. Then the impunity is what you're supporting. You actually are going to be you're an arm of the you are supporting the government to do what they're doing if you keep quiet.
I agree. I do agree.
Well, I hate to move from this, but I'll get back to let's get back to the story about the Nigerian army. If it's truly about IPOB and the support for IPOB, and actually their feigned search for Nnamdi Kanu, which they keep saying that they're searching for, the Nigerian government, then let's tell the story of what happened to Nnamdi Kanu in Afuruku, Umuahia.
Yeah, well, okay. Like I had started, Nnamdi Kanu, leader of IPOB, the federal government, first and foremost, launches what was called Operation Python Dance, which was, as you well know, very controversial, because for many of us, we didn't understand how you could be having a military operation within the confines of a country, where you have the police and other arms of the security in the country. At any rate, as controversial as it was, they moved into the southeast zone, and as quote-unquote part of their operations, they invade Nnamdi Kanu's father's house. We know that Nnamdi Kanu was in that compound prior to the army coming in. We know that there was a lot of brutalization of members of IPOB when they moved in. What we do not know is what happened to Nnamdi Kanu. And the army has not yet said what they did with Nnamdi Kanu. And it seems to me that nobody is trying to hold them accountable, because they know what they did in that compound. And they should not be left. My feeling is that they should be held fully accountable. They should produce Nnamdi Kanu.
Yes, so
or tell us. Yes, go ahead.
So for Operation Python Dance, as they called it, this is a military exercise, and I know you had said in your conversation that it's the military doing something internal in the within the confines of the country, and that's well and good when military exercises happen inside the country, because there are designated military places that they use for such exercises. But this, what we're saying is, this is a police action, or at least what seemed like a police action, that the military had a problem with a specific community or a specific person, or the Nigerian government had a problem, or what they thought was a problem. And if that was the reason, that's what you're saying, then the police should have been the ones taking care of what is a police action. We don't know what the problem is, if they did have a problem. We don't know what the fracas is, if they did have any reasons to get there. But it's not the job of the military to use armored vehicles and tanks. This is what happened. It's not like the military dressed up in their uniform and only with the guns knocked on the door and arrested people. This is an operation in the community where people live, not in a designated military space, where they use armored vehicles and tanks, and moved into a small community in Afuruku, Umuahia, into Nnamdi Kanu's ancestral home. Ancestral because he's an Igbo man, and ancestral means a specific has a specific meaning for an Igbo man to get into his ancestral home. This is a home he inherited, and was inherited by his father, and was inherited by his father's father, and was inherited by his forefathers, because that's how you pass on land and inheritance. So if there's any place for a man to defend, it is his ancestral home.
Well, for those of us that live in the United States, this would be the typical example for stand your ground.
This is the stand your ground place. This is, if there's any place for a man to stand his ground, this is the place, because this is something that's been passed on from generations to generations to generations and down to Nnamdi Kanu's father. So they moved into someone's ancestral home, destroyed it, killed a bunch of young people, and when they were done, Nnamdi Kanu was missing. And now we hear the Nigerian government once in a while ask about where Nnamdi Kanu is. And for a lot of us, we're thinking it's a cover-up. It's somebody asking you before you ask them. Because before they went into that house, before they went into that home, before they went into that ancestral home, we knew the young man was living there. That was the way where he lived after he was granted bail by the government. So they go in there, they come out, and nobody knows where he is. And once in a while, somebody from the government will ask, "Where's the Nnamdi Kanu?" And if they are going after Abaraibe for something that we know, or a lot of people know, that it disappeared after the military got in there, then we're kidding ourselves.
Yeah, well, again, sometimes you don't know where to start. You really don't know where to start. There was a military commander.
Yes.
This is not. This was not a bunch, a mob.
No.
This was the military under the command.
They had a name for the operation.
Good. You have a Nigerian Senate.
Yes.
Has anybody called that military commander to account for?
The Senate kept quiet.
There you go. So
you have a governor of a state.
The governor of a state.
Where this happened, the governor kept quiet. You have the local governments.
Chair.
You have all the people, the ministers and people that represent the people. I mean, we have people that say they are representing Nigerians, people who are telling us they want to contend for election, people who are telling us they want us to vote for them because they're going to make the country better, and the gallery kept quiet.
So that's where you start. I think what happens is we will wait to see. I don't think you can necessarily arrest or detain Abaraibe ad infinitum. He is too high profile.
Well, too high profile. They did this to Dino Malaya, although Dino, I hear, is in London. But they did this to Dino Malaya, and I mean, had the guy on the floor, ended up sending him to the hospital, and then after then what? Because they didn't prove anything.
Well,
they didn't achieve anything other than make that whole big noise, and the guy is free and in London, which we say thank God for his health. But what are they trying to do? Why are they trying to intimidate people that are opposing to their policies?
So somebody has to draw a line somewhere, sometime. And maybe this is where the line should be drawn. If nobody else wants to speak out, the senator does represent a zone.
Yes. The people that he's representing shouldn't keep quiet.
Should not keep quiet.
Because it's your representation that is being intimidated and taken away from you systematically.
It is not the man, but the position that you should be looking at.
Who is speaking for you while he's being intimidated and harassed by your government?
So, is it so that he can no longer effectively represent you?
Yep.
And for the Southeast zone, he is one of the people that champion your cause.
So Southeast zone, I have to, instead of saying I've given up on you because I haven't, I have to throw out a challenge out there. The challenge is this. This government has not done anything to show any interest whatsoever in the Southeast zone.
Yes.
No projects are going on there. No projects are being planned there, and you know this. The second Niger bridge that Obasanjo and the rest used to float is a far gone. It's no longer actually in the discussion. There is no projects. The roads are terrible. Any federal road going to the Southeast zone is terrible. The place is an occupied area. By that I mean you can't move more than 1 mile. What is that, 5 kilometers? You can't move more than 1 mile without encountering a military personnel with a gun or a police person with a gun stopping you every few inches that you move, because they're collecting money from the transporters, but also they're harassing travelers that are going to their homestead. That does not happen in any other part of the country. You could travel in Lagos, none of those. You could travel in the north, none of those. But once you get beyond the Niger or go down below the Benue, you cannot move inches So it's an occupied area. So the government is not looking after you. The government is terrorizing you with all these people with guns, and the government is harassing people that are representing you. What are you going to do about it? That's a challenge. Because if you keep quiet, then you're saying, I love what you're doing, do more of it. If you start advocating for yourselves now, then maybe there is hope.
I like the challenge you dropped. We will wait to see who picks it up. Again, that's why it is important to choose your leaders carefully. Or the era of having people come in and win an election just so they can go to Abuja and eat fat of the reap the benefits of a crooked government. Those days should be coming to an end.
And those are not benefits. That's corruption, that they're taking what belongs
Absolutely.
to you and embezzling money that should be coming to you.
Removing that which accrues to you legally, they're siphoning it off, living large, and doing absolutely nothing to represent your
votes
interests.
That do nothing, getting constitutional projects that you don't see anything out of, that not accounted to you about. Those days should be gone. The people that are representing you, fight for the ones that are representing you, and fight against the ones that are embezzling your funds.
Yes.
Ask them questions. Well, you are listening to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station, and we're discussing the Nigerian government and its terrorism on its people, especially the harassment that is happening currently to Senator Abaraibe, representing the Umuahia area, who the police invaded, the EFCC invaded his home and arrested, and we are yet to find out why. So if you're listening to us and you want to be part of the conversation, we ask you to call us on this number, 773-942-7167. Once again, it's 773-942-7167, and we will talk to you over the radio. If you haven't already, you could listen to us this Saturday and every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5. Sometimes we go an hour longer. And on Tuesdays, we come to you talking about all things global. Tuesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And you could listen to us using the TuneIn app, either on Android or on Windows. Or you could download from the Apple iOS App Store. You could download the WGHC 98.3 FM app, and you could listen to us beyond the north side of Chicago, where we're coming to you from. And my co-host once again is Mazi Obasi. He's now in the studio. So I will change the topic a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll talk about the information, the ranching opportunities in Nigeria. So the Nigerian government, or some members of the Nigerian government, are floating papers, very well organized document on farming, especially the livestock farming and ranching.
Yes.
Have you seen the document?
I saw the white paper on that.
So
this is a government paper. That is not some people. This is a federal government paper.
Okay.
Yes.
Not some people. The federal government is floating a paper on livestock, and it seems well organized.
Yes.
They mapped out the eastern part of Nigeria, mostly eastern, northeast, central east, south, all the way down to Ebonyi State, the states where they're going to actually do this ranching, or where they propose that this happens.
Yes.
Now, one of the things they proposed there, thank God that they've come to this, is that instead of taking the livestock from place to place to place, instead of the nomadic cattle rearing or herdsmen, that they're going to do ranching.
Yes.
Now, what do you think about that?
First of all, let's start with the overall premise.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
So
it's been a good idea everywhere in the world. Right.
So it is high time.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the problem with Nigeria, of course, is that nothing is ever as simple as it seems.
Yes. Why do you say that?
Because it seems to me that if you are interested in doing large-scale farming,
Yes.
livestock farming,
Yes.
the federal government as a government should not be in the business of livestock farming.
Well, so there are places, there are public-private partnerships.
Well, that's where I'm coming to.
Okay, all
That's
right.
where I'm coming to.
All right.
So it should not be a federal government mandate.
Because we've seen for the things that the federal government have decided to run, how wonderfully they've run it.
Well, there is nothing that the government has run that has succeeded.
Exactly my point.
So public-private partnerships, again, a wonderful idea.
Yes.
However,
Yes.
what a government does in that situation is to set out guidelines and parameters for the private involvement. In other words, this is what we are looking for. This is where we want to take it.
Yes.
If you are able to fulfill A, B, C, we will match with C, D, E, or D, E, F, so that it works well. Now, my worry is you are coming in and taking land for farming, for
Okay.
ranching. So the first
Right.
question is, how do we acquire this land?
So, government is going to acquire land for farming, and the question is, how is it going to be the what's that rule that the government uses to take whatever land that they want?
Yes, eminent domain.
Eminent domain.
Yes.
Is it land acquired through eminent domain, or is the government going to pay to acquire this land?
So that is question number one.
What's your proposal?
My proposal is that I actually don't even think that the federal government should be talking about paying to acquire any land.
You're thinking that whomever
Whomever wants to participate,
should acquire the land,
Acquire the
whether
land.
the government provides them the fund or the grant or
absolutely.
the financing,
Yes.
but it should be the private part of this partnership
Yes.
that acquires land the way the private partnerships acquire land, which is by buying them.
you buy land, you lease land,
Yes.
you have a community donate land to you. I don't care how you get it, but the point is you should not be taking people's land.
Eminent domain should not
It should not
apply
play a
here
role
because you're
in
not
this.
trying to build a road or highway or transportation or a public space.
Yes.
You're trying to build a business that people are going to pay to get the produce from.
And it is a profitable business. So you
It
cannot
should be run
take.
as it's a for-profit
Yes,
business.
it is absolutely.
Even if it's for charity, even charitable organizations don't go doing eminent domain and
Well,
seizing land.
So that is the first issue.
So no eminent domain
Yes,
because there's nothing eminent about this domain.
yes.
And then, so
Now you talk about. So there's the ranch
yes,
itself. If you look at the document, then they talk about setting up feed farms, more land.
yes.
Are those part of the land that is acquired for ranching? In other words, or is it that you are going to encourage people that live around these ranches
To develop businesses.
There you go.
To develop businesses to help feed
Again, because we all know this. Let us take transportation.
Yes,
Look at airways.
yes.
Nigeria Airways. Where is it today?
Sold as pieces and parts to somebody who was related to the government.
The public-private partnership between federal government and Virgin Atlantic.
Didn't work out so well when Virgin left
Okay.
the partnership.
Who loses?
Nigerians,
Nigeria.
of course.
Now go and look at the private airlines. ADC, ARIC, Cabo.
Struggling because the government wouldn't even. So this is the painful part is there are businesses in Nigeria today
Yes.
that actually could help employ young people in Nigeria, where the proprietors of those businesses are struggling and have banks that they are working with and private funding that they're getting, where the government could either by contributing or taking a partnership interest could help these struggling businesses up so that they could be able to employ more of their youth.
Actually,
Hasn't happened.
actually, I'm even of the opinion that if they would just get out of the way,
That's
just
yes.
bloody get out of the way.
The other
Let
thing they
Nigerians
do is put
do what
stumbles
Nigeria.
in front of these
Absolutely,
businesses.
we don't need big.
We never needed them because they never shown themselves to be helpful.
Yeah. So all they need, let's look at road transportation.
Yes.
So virtually every state, at least in the southern part of Nigeria, state government has floated the issue of transportation.
And have invested heavily in some
And
of them.
how long have these lasted?
If you see the ones that are run by the state, you will know.
Exactly. Now compare it with what
The private ones.
There you go.
So the one thing that the government is supposed to do in transportation
Yes.
is infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
They haven't done that.
Build
Not
roads. If you want to collect
Build
toll,
and
collect
maintain-
toll.
build
but
and maintain the
yes. That's my biggest issue. We need at some time to recognize that anything we do under the guise of quote unquote government
Yes.
is basically a means for people
It's
to
a giveaway to the people who are
Yes.
part of the administration, or friends of
Absolutely.
the administration, to take
Absolutely.
the people to the laundry.
So here we go again
Yes.
with another big government project. So that's my issue with it. So first and foremost, I don't want government to be involved in this. You set out guidelines. Ranching is beautiful.
It's an idea that has been there for ages, and so I will say this:
Okay.
when it comes to ranching, the University of Nigeria in Soka
Yes.
is ranching Efibo,
Okay.
and the reason they are doing it is because there's a study done by a partner university here in
Yeah.
the U.S.
Okay.
that looked at that species
Yes.
and determined that there were only about 100,000 or less of that
Left.
species left.
Yes.
And they wanted to put in place a program to actually continue to
Increase their
increase the
numbers.
species and make
yeah,
them
so
thrive because
they are now endangered.
yes. And so this ranching has been going on for a while. Nobody's taking the cattle and nomadically moving them from place to place. They've been able to feed them. They've been able to take care of them. They've been able to try to grow these numbers. I know also of people who do that for goats. I know of people who do that for other domestic animals. So ranching has been going on in Nigeria for ages.
Yes.
This is not a novel idea. This is not new. It's not brand new. That the government is floating it is brand new, because if you read the paper, it sounds brand new. Maybe
Yes.
the government of Nigeria finally woke up to ranching.
Yes.
But it's been in existence in other countries. It's been happening even in Nigeria for a very, very, very long time. Even the northern part of Nigeria has ranching going on, because I remember when we used to travel and we see all kinds of cows in the trucks and lorries.
Yes,
with
being
their
driven
horns
down.
being
Yes, the
driven
longhorn.
down. We used to think, so I mean, growing up, I saw a lot of those, and there is no other reason other than they were ranched somewhere and being transported for food somewhere. Is just a Johnny come lately that the herdsmen are using the cattle as an excuse and as a front to go down and harass people, and the Nigerian government is using this new paper as a reason for a land grab.
Well, then you begin to read a little bit deeper
Into what's going on.
into that paper, and then that should give you reason for concern.
Oh, so something I did not miss.
Yes.
All the Boko Haram area has ranch all over it. If you look at the map,
Yeah.
if you look at the states, if you look at where the green are colored,
Yes.
where the ranches will be, it is all over the states that the Boko Haram people have been marching towards and taking over.
Okay.
Not only that, but also Ebonyi State, where the herdsmen have been just acting as menace.
Yes.
It seems like it is the one and the same plan. I know it's conspiracy, and I'm not one for conspiracy, but it seems like, this is just an impression, it seems like the Nigerian government is matching the herdsmen and the Boko Haram. Maybe I'm reading something into it. Maybe what the Nigerian government is trying to do is to help those people who are displaced by the melee of all these terrorists, to actually give them a grant and an opportunity to have a better life. What say you?
Well, who am I to determine what is in the minds of the federal government? The reality, let's take a step back, okay?
Yes, yes.
You know, because sometimes we act like everybody lives in their own little box.
Yes.
There is no doubt that the level of mistrust in Nigeria is the highest it has ever been, bar none.
And it's not being made any better by the government.
That's the point.
They are actually fueling the mistrust.
Is this government deaf, blind, deaf, and dumb?
The same government that in the first few weeks of their taking the reign of government will go and bomb the Calabar area because
they just recently bombed another area in Benue.
In Bauchi?
Right, in
Bauchi?
Well, yes.
That's even before the planes get back from the U.S. that they ordered. So the U.S. government, I'm really, really, really sad that you sold to Nigerian government despite the Leahy Amendment, but you are seeing what they're going to do with the equipment once they get it. Because even before the planes that they ordered arrived, they are bombing their citizens in Bauchi State. They bombed them in Calabar area. But the Boko Haram people have been in the forest of Sambisa and have not been bombed, at least not as much as, I mean, the military is afraid to go there. They're always coming back with defeated stories. The police and the military tend to leave the areas before the Boko Haram come in and work their menace and either kidnap girls in Dapchi or wherever else they're going and displace the people. Or the herdsmen, the military and all the armed forces and Nigerian security agents disappear when the herdsmen are going into a community, even when the community have heard rumors and have tried to get these people involved. They disappear, and after effect is that they show up and then stop the citizens from taking up arms against these people. So if there is any reason for suspicion, the government has done a whole lot to cultivate that in the way they've acted towards their citizens.
So, now, in this climate, where generals, ex-generals, are calling on their people in the Middle Belt to rise up and defend themselves against the tyranny of the federal government,
yes,
okay?
Yes.
In an era where community after community after community from southern Kaduna, yes, all the way down to
even Sokoto, where they are mistreating the Shiites.
Everybody is on edge. You have not made a single plan to try to ease tension. You have not made a single announcement that will reassure Nigerians that you understand and you are going to try to make things better.
The only thing that has gone good for Nigeria this year is that the Nigerian Eagles beat Iceland 2-0. Other than that, there is nothing that this government, which they didn't play on the field, they had nothing to do with. I'm pretty sure they're probably owing the Eagles even before they get home. There is nothing this government could say is going in the right direction today. All they have done is do excuses after excuses. Oh, how about the Nigerian money? Well, the economy is bad. How about the oil? Well, the refineries are not working. How about, so what can this government boast of that is working well? What will give us the confidence that they could actually be able to run ranches?
Yes. Well, so the question you're asking, before you even get into that,
yes,
I think it is important again to look at something you alluded to, where these ranches are being set up.
Look at the map yourself. Go on Google, find the document that the Nigerian government has published on farming in Nigeria and livestock farming. Their National Agric Plan is called, and look at it. Look at the spaces where they're actually going to put the ranches. Look at the states that they are proposing. Look at, I mean, it's a very, very well written, organized paper. Somebody put some thought into it. For that, I give them credit. My proposal, my counter proposal is take all this nice work you have done, put it up there, and float grants for people who could do better to get grants from the federal government.
And
to
you
do the
set
work.
guidelines.
Yes.
Follow up on guidelines. Make sure that anybody who is collecting a federal grant is going to
Is
use
doing
it for
something with
the
it,
purpose
for the
to which
purpose.
it was designed.
Exactly. And if grants are not, I mean, are not giving you enough, do partnerships where you take some stake, but not you take some interest, but not interest that allows you to make the calls, and give the job to the professionals, not to the bureaucrats. Do not go chasing people out of their ancestral lands and ancestral homes because you are invoking eminent domain. Do not go displacing people and making the place much more not governable. So that's my proposal to the Nigerian government if they really want to do this.
Yeah, and the only addition, which is not really an addition, which is agreeing with you, is to the extent that you have taken these ranches and put them in the exact same areas where Fulani headsmen and local indigenes have been fighting
Yes.
for grazing rights.
Yes.
I think the level of insensitivity is unbelievable.
Way too much.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So, to tell you the truth, in my opinion, if I was a governor, I would not allow it in my
Plateau
state.
State in Jos, where they started, this is actually, Plateau State used to be what Makurdi
Yes.
used to be the high point, the flash points of this. This is where the Boko Haram activities actually started a whole lot before it moved all the way to the northeast. Plateau State is on there.
Yeah.
Ebonyi State, where they recently killed a whole bunch of people. Benue, where the government just bombed the hell out. Zamfara, Taraba, Nasarawa, part of Kaduna, Benue, Adamawa. This is insensitive.
So, Borno State is not there.
No.
Yobe State is not there.
No.
Where is Sambisa Forest?
Way north, all the way on the northeast, near to Lake Chad. I don't see that on the map.
There's nothing there.
So they ceded that to Boko Haram. And then where the people from that were pushed by Boko Haram ran to, that's where they're trying to put the ranches.
So I encourage people to go and look at that map.
Nigerian government should put up a grant and allow anybody, anywhere in Nigeria, that could show that they could ranch anywhere to do that.
Yeah.
It can't just be we mapped out these states and we're going to do land grab in this area and the rest of you forget it. We're going to take whatever land we want.
Yes. Again, the other question is, are these ranches, who's going to run the ranch? How are they administered? Where does the cattle come from? Are we empowering local people in each of the states to actually come together and run those ranches? Or is the federal government going to bring in people who are going to now live in these ranches and basically create settlements?
I again say the best way to do this is float grants for people who could do this under your guidelines to come get money and produce. If they don't produce, kick them off the program and make sure they pay you back every penny. But the government should not be in the business of taking over people's land and using it for something that is a for-profit business and giving handouts to other people to the detriment of other people. It's just not.
Let me be the first to put it out there.
Yeah.
If you are in a state in Nigeria where they are planning to create one of these ranches, and the plan is for people that are not from within your state, indigenes,
or companies,
or private, because if you're a cooperative, then you hire people from there.
But
you're not going to be
acquire
bringing
the land the right way.
Yes. I would say put your foot down and say no.
Don't say no to employment. Say no to somebody taking what's yours for their benefit,
yes,
and making you pay for something that actually may have been cheaper if they were not there.
That's my issue. If you want to set up a ranch in my community, if we provide land, we should also provide labor.
That's right.
We also have the expertise to run those ranches. If we don't have the expertise, bring people to come and teach us how to do it. Don't go and bring people from somewhere else and put them right smack dab in the middle of my community and tell me that you're running a ranch. Those things, so these are things that we need to think through, and I think, unfortunately, because this government in Nigeria has not shown in any way that they have not demonstrated in any way or fashion that they actually have a plan that will cohesively grow the country. Any action such as this that they want to embark on will need to be looked at very, very closely.
As much as we're saying this, it is painful to me to say this, that the government and the people match each other. What I mean by that is, I am talking about this because I saw the paper, somebody shared it with me, and I read through it. A lot of Nigerians who could read and write, who know about the paper, will go about what they think is their normal business.
Yes.
It is your normal business to make sure that you could secure your today, take care of your today, and make sure that your tomorrow is good enough. What I mean by that is, you may think that you're not concerned right now, that you will wait and see. You will wait and see, and it will come to fruition. If you keep quiet, if you don't start asking questions now, if you don't start reading and understanding what's in there and asking the necessary questions to your government and your representatives and making sure that they hear your thoughts and side of the argument. Maybe what I'm saying is actually not working for you, that you have an opposing view. Let your state senator know. If your plan is, oh yeah, come take my land, come take my father's land, come take my uncle's land, put that here because it's going to be beneficial eventually for me, you better let those who are representing you know. You better tell them that it's actually going to be part of the things you're judging them on, especially those that are promising to represent you come the next election. But even the ones that are representing you now, make sure they know. Talk to them, ask questions, and make sure you understand what is being proposed and what is being done with your money and your country.
For those who may want to know, it's called the National Livestock Transformation Plan. The National Livestock Transformation Plan. It is a federal government plan. I'm sure if for those in Nigeria, if you know where to look, you can find it. I think copies of this need to be distributed very widely so that anybody who is interested can go and read it for themselves and determine if we are maybe very wrong in our assertions,
yes,
or if perhaps we are right in crying wolf.
We could be wrong.
Yeah, if we are wrong, prove me wrong.
Yes.
This is why we have this station. I would like somebody to call in right now
and tell me how,
and tell me why we are wrong.
At least make your argument. You don't have to try to convince me. Make your argument why.
Well, make it to our listeners.
And the number is 773-942-7167. It's National Livestock Transformation Plan. If you don't speak up now, when it's too late, it will be too late.
Don't blame anybody. Yes.
You are listening to WGAC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station, and you were listening and continue to listen to Straight Talk Radio. And we're going to take a 1-minute break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. This is Straight Talk Radio. And we were discussing the Nigerian government's idea to run a ranch. And we were sharing that it's not the first time ever that ranching is ever done in the world. It's actually something that's going on all over the world. So we welcome the Nigerian government to that idea because it's always been like a blight on the Nigerian affairs that we keep talking about nomadic herdsmen going around with cattle and killing people. So maybe this is a way to stop that, and we applaud that. But on the other hand, we are saying that ranching is a private business and should be treated as such. We welcome the government's idea to help make this easier. And what we are proposing, a counter proposal to the Nigerian proposal, is a grant. that will allow anybody anywhere in Nigeria that wants to do ranching under whatever guideline that the Nigerian government draws to do that. And the Nigerian government will help them with financing and with the equipment or whatever else that the government could be able to better acquire and help with. And it should be open to all citizens, so that because the poverty in Nigeria is affecting all citizens and every part of the state. And even if they want to pick some states, fine, it should still be a grant. And if they want to get involved, it could be a public-private partnership.
Well, so let me first start from the point of view that the federal government is actually doing this in partnership with a company from the Netherlands.
A foreign company.
A foreign company, which itself is a cooperative. Okay, now, talking about how best to do this, let's look at this scenario. You create opportunity for ranching.
Yes.
You have people make, when you set out guidelines. When you set out guidelines, maybe within state governments, state participation, okay?
And there is nothing that stops the company from Netherlands from participating, except now they are participating with Nigerian actors that is providing employment for the Nigerians.
Absolutely. Not the federal, at the federal level. Then,
that's right.
Let me point out something else. You have universities that are starved for funds. Our universities in Nigeria are not the repository of our wisdom.
Yep.
So,
what are we teaching in university about ranching and farming? If an opportunity
to have a like
company
this
show up and the federal government fund them to grab land, it's a land grab. There's nothing camouflaged about it.
How if you wanted to do this the right way?
Yes.
You say Department of Agriculture.
Yep.
Let's take Abia State, not Abia, Ebonyi. Department of Agriculture, Ebonyi State.
Yes.
Will be the supervisory department. The state government can help provide land.
Yes.
The Department of Agriculture will now oversee in terms of the actual day-to-day livestock farming. So the people you employ to feed the cattle, to help cross the cattle, to breed, to take care of they
shouldn't be. For me, the government when they prescribe employment, they should provide the guidelines for employment. So you could say that at least this opportunity should be able to employ 60% of the people employed should be living in the locale or within the state of whatever. Or
the government shouldn't even say that. Create the conditions and let the local people do it.
When it's a foreign company.
Oh, no. The foreign company's job is to work with the university. The foreign company should not be talking about who is employed. They are not allowed.
If you look at some of the partnerships,
yes,
and I put that in quote, that the Nigerian government have made, especially with the Chinese companies, there are no stipulations. If you go to these companies, the foreman is Chinese.
Yes.
The guy moving the brick is Chinese.
Yes.
All right, maybe the guy that's bringing them coffee in the morning is Nigerian.
Yeah.
But every job is staffed with Chinese people.
Down to the laborers.
Nothing against Chinese folks who are bringing their people with their technology and their knowledge. But part of what this should be is also an employment opportunity for Nigerians and also a transfer of knowledge, because somebody's going to have to maintain these after they're gone.
That's the point. And that is why it particularly pains me. All of us that grew up in Nigeria recognize that at some time we had very strong educational institutions that have been allowed to rot. And the reason they have been rotting is because you have not had the support public institutions need to survive.
So I was in Nigeria 2 years ago, 2016, and there is this mad craze about ShopRite.
Yes.
And I don't get it. But then it took me a while after I got back stateside to realize what's going on. When I was growing on, there was Kingsway, there was
Leventis,
there were
Chalarams,
there were
yes.
all these that you could walk into and get your stuff, and things were working.
Yes.
And we went to the movies.
Yes.
I mean, I forgot the name of the one.
Metro Cinema.
Metro. That's by where a Kennedy who used
Yes.
to load.
Yes.
So these all existed, and I saw them growing up. So hearing the kids and even the adults get excited about these things that existed before because they seem to be coming back in style confused me. But it's because some of these kids grew up without the same there's a generation that grew up
without any of this
decayed
There
infrastructure
you go.
where these places used to be. Why did that happen? Because some of them were the economy got hard and some of those stores moved away. But the government had not put the infrastructure in place to actually sustain these. Power is there. If you get power in Nigeria, you are running a generator. And the gas to run the generator is nowhere to be found. You pay through the nose to get that. How could you run a business on something like that? The phones don't work. I mean, you could barely, you just use your senses to figure out what every other word means because that's what you're hearing. But yet, the companies that provide those services will charge you an arm and a leg. The PHCN, the renamed NEPA, will charge you an arm and a leg for the power they didn't supply. So you kill off all these things and then you allow foreign companies, because ShopRite is foreign to Nigeria.
South
It's
Africa,
African,
yes.
and
Yes.
I do admit that. And actually, I like that they are employing Nigerians, but you allow foreign companies, you're not helping any local companies to do this. You allow foreign companies to come in and take up these spaces. You haven't encouraged, and then you could go on TV anytime you want and blame the lazy youth of the nation that you haven't provided anything for.
Well, so yeah.
If we're going to do public-private partnerships,
yes,
all we're saying is it should be done right. There are models. So just like the
There are
Nigerian
models.
government woke up and realized there is ranching,
there are models.
we are
Yes.
employing them to wake up and realize that there is public-private partnership done right. Actually, the previous governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi,
Yes.
did many public-private partnerships with Sab Miller. I can't remember some of the other companies, but the good thing about this is he did it, and the state took a Orient Petroleum took
yes.
partnership interests. It took interests that allowed them at least to be able to make some money for the states, but provide enough funding for the professionals to do what they do
best.
Yes,
Yes.
and also employ people. Because if you employ people, then it cuts down on the menace that you're seeing with dilapidated and poverty-stricken places where the kids have nothing better to do than to get into trouble.
Yeah, it is funny because in the 70s,
Yes.
there was a lot of research at University of Nigeria in Nsukka on crossbreeding cattle
Yep.
to provide strains or breeds that would be resistant to sesafly
Yes.
and yet have enough meat.
What happened?
This is 40 years later.
We're still trying to
40
get
years
the
later.
same nama with no meat on it that you use.
So, it is, and that's the sad thing. So here we have what potentially could be a wonderful way to kickstart animal husbandry on a large scale in Nigeria.
An alternative to the fuel,
Yeah.
to the oil
Yeah.
money, right?
And we are screwing it up from day one, thereby ensuring that it will never succeed.
Because it will be mired in all kinds of tribal squabbles.
So it goes back to where I started. Does this government think?
They haven't shown that they do. If they think, they are only thinking about themselves.
I can understand a president. I mean, we have Trump. So, yeah. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world to be president of a country. All you really
Shouldn't be
need
the
to do is
requirement.
to surround yourself with smart people and know how to use them.
And talk to the communities, talk to Nigerians, because I'm wondering who a Nigerian that read this paper,
Yes.
did they float this idea with anybody in the public?
I know.
I'm wondering of somebody who read this paper and say, oh yeah, sounds great, let's do it, without saying, oh, by the way, do you see that the places that you picked may be problematic? Do you see that what you're proposing may have some issues? How are you going to sell this?
Unless, of course, there is an agenda that is deeper than what we are seeing.
And that suspicion is not going to go away.
That suspicion is not going to go away.
We're not saying it on radio to breed the suspicion. We're saying it on radio to let you know that it's out there, and you know that it's out there. But it's the deafness of the Nigerian government that is going to ensure that this wonderful idea, welcome to the idea that you are going to actually try to do something about
agriculture.
Not just agriculture, but the camouflage of using nomadic movement to kill other people, that you're going to try to
deal with it decisively.
But if you're going to deal with it, it's going to be dealt with unarmed truth. What that means is you're going to tell yourself the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The area is problematic, and it should be a business that people run and are encouraged to run, but supported only by the government, not something that the government will go in there and bulldoze themselves into people's lives and take over their stuff in the name of it's a land grab. That's the way I see it. Until you convince me otherwise, it's the land grab for the same people, the Fulani herdsmen who use cattle to land grab and drive people out of their homes, and the Nigerian military ensures that they stay and the displaced people don't. Convince me otherwise, you could call at 773-942-7167.
Yes, so we can even expand this, since we are now talking about PPP.
Yes, public-private partnership.
Let's look at other things the federal government could be doing.
So there used to be this car that was driven a whole lot by a whole lot of people, especially people who got out of the universities when I was growing up, when I was a baby. It's called Beetle. And they happened to have, Volkswagen happened to have an assembly plant.
VON,
in Nigeria.
Yep.
What happened to that? Since we're talking about that, how about Peugeot? What happened to Peugeot? It's no longer in Nigeria. It used to be the car, the I have arrived car, 504.
Well,
404 if you haven't arrived all the way. 504.
403, 404, 504, 604.
Transportation, right? So what happened to Peugeot in Nigeria?
Well, those are public-private partnerships with foreign
entities.
What about Innocent?
Your
own indigenously developed.
So the Nigerian government, in its wisdom, decided, well, the agents of the Nigerian government, to invade Innocent's home and detain him and his wife.
Yep.
Because
manhandle his wife.
Because I heard that there was a complaint by Access Bank or some. GTB. Sorry, Access Bank. GTB about some judgment that a court has ruled on and ruled against the bank on. Why would that? Why would the Nigerian government and government agents get into a civil case that has nothing to do with the government? And then eventually, last week, another judge ruled against GTB, and they're supposed to pay Innocent some more. This is somebody who's built the business. It wasn't just this government, because
it's not. Yes,
the Obasanjo government.
Yes.
Barricaded his equipment in the ports for a very, very, very long time. It took the Jonathan government coming into power for him to be able to get those equipment into where he was, into Newi, from the ports.
It goes back to where. So when you talk about public-private partnerships,
so instead of seeing where they could partner and somebody they could help to employ the youth, they saw an enemy. This is somebody who's trying to make progress, not just for himself, but for an entire community.
So let me point out something to you.
Yes.
If you invested money, let's take for example, you say Innocent has a car manufacturing plant.
Yes.
You invest money in creating stable power.
Yes.
So whether coal powered, whether gas power fired, whatever it is, create electricity.
Use the power of the Nigerian government and its partnership.
Yes.
Yep.
Good. You now take a 10% stake in Innocent.
And that's what your 10% brings, right?
Okay. Now, the 10% stake
Yes.
you're taking in that company, you are also saying to Innocent, you make sure that everybody you employ here pays tax.
You're going to get your money back
Well,
in taxes.
so you now take the final step a government should be looking at to say all federal government employees, any car bought by the federal government has to be an Innocent
a
vehicle.
Nigerian car.
Or
It
any,
has to
yes,
be
a Nigerian car.
So
Yes.
I live in the Chicago area.
Yep.
I've had the opportunity to meet with some of the law enforcement agents, sometimes welcome, sometimes
Yep.
because I'm doing something I
Yep.
shouldn't be. And all of them that I've met in Chicago, all of them that I've met outside of Chicago in all the other states I've traveled
Yes.
to, none of them have actually approached me with a car other than an American-made vehicle.
Well,
we have so
yes.
if we
Yes.
count the cars, so actually the yearly report of what cars are performing best in the U.S. came out.
Yes.
And Kia, a Korean car,
Yes.
is winning hands
Yes.
down in all categories. Before then, it used to just be Toyota,
Yeah.
or it used to be BMW, or it used to be somebody.
Yes.
All these cars I'm mentioning, none of them are American companies,
Yeah.
but these cars are made in the U.S. They have plants in the U.S. that manufacture the car, not just assemble.
Yes.
But none of the people that work for the government that I have run into, or none of the government
drive-
vehicles,
Yeah.
are any of these foreign company cars. They are all American cars.
It's either, yeah, because that's how you support local industry. You don't say you can't bring in cars. You can bring in as many cars as you like,
Yes.
but our government is going to support our local industry. So, perhaps if we were doing that, Volkswagen would not have died,
Because it was a partnership.
Peugeot might not have died,
Because it was a government partnership.
and Innocent would be thriving today.
Because it's a local manufacturer.
Okay.
Actually, if the government was doing that, Innocent would be selling outside of Africa.
And the government would be making money.
And people will be driving Nigerian cars beyond Nigeria.
So,
But instead, the government is using its power to fight
shut down.
and shut down
Well, there you go.
a private business
Yes.
because of maybe some personal issues.
Yes. So that is Nigeria for you.
That is a shame.
Okay? You move. We've talked about transportation.
Yes.
Look at haulage. Haulage, long distance haulage.
Yep. I know a lot of
It is
people who
yeah.
are in the business of coming to the U.S. and finding the large trucks
Yes.
to take home to haul things.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, if you ask me, uneducated opinion, why the Nigerian roads are in the shape that they are is because we have these big cars, big trucks, 18-wheelers on the same road as the small cars that are too narrow for everybody. So if the Nigerian government will get the infrastructure right and actually maybe even widen some of the roads or even designate some of the roads for these big hauling vehicles, maybe some of the roads will be better than they are.
Yeah, if you well, I have
That's
a different opinion.
That's a tangent, right?
Because no. I think that if we were truly interested in developing infrastructure,
yes,
you go to the haulage companies and you get them to buy into the issue of building rail lines. Build rail lines that connect hubs all over Nigeria. The British did it when they needed to
take things from Kano
Maiduguri,
State
yeah,
all
from
the way
Kano
to the port.
coast.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When did the British when did Britain leave Nigeria? When was Nigeria's independence?
Just less than 60 years ago.
And so in 60 years you cannot build a rail line that connects.
Meanwhile, you've managed to destroy the one that existed and
Well,
didn't maintain it whatsoever.
There you go. So that's what you do, because nobody who wants their community to do well hauls everything by road.
Yes.
That is what is killing your roads.
So we're talking about roads infrastructure not being maintained, but the most I can't wait till they have numbers. They have no numbers. the most accidents that I see pictures of, and please stop posting those pictures on Facebook with people dead. Pictures of people dead on the Nigerian roads, the horrible accidents that a lot of people are posting on social media.
Trailer.
It's mostly because of these big hauling vehicles.
When their brakes fail.
Yep.
Because again, they're poorly maintained. Because again, we have no standards.
Oh,
So the police
Don't get me about
will stop you
and take your 15 naira.
about your inner light.
Or your papers not being accurate because they mistyped the number at the end.
But you see haulage vehicles that have bald tires.
And by the way, I hear that the missing letter or the missing number or the 9 that is written like a 7 is a collusion between the police and the people that work for the government that do those paperwork to continue to make money for the police, so that the police will look at your 9 and say, well, that's a 7, doesn't look like a 9. When it's clear to them in other paperwork that it says 9 or that, so that is that the police will focus on things that don't matter and let the person who's driving a vehicle without proper lighting, without the right brakes, actually have no place to check brakes. There are no places built, on the roads here. There are places where the big hauls pull out and check their brakes and make sure that things are working.
And they weigh the vehicle to see if you're carrying more weight than the roads should support.
I've seen pictures. I know the ones that most people see is from India, where they overload the vehicle. That's exactly the same thing you see in Nigeria.
Yeah.
You see the vehicle and you are afraid to actually have it anywhere near you. If you're in a car, you don't want to drive anywhere near it because it's overloaded. You don't even know how the driver is seen because everything, including where the driver is overpacked with goods. I don't know if they think they have to haul everything that very day or else. And they get in trouble and then you lose everything because you put everything in one vehicle instead of twice.
Yeah, it's
Or 4 times.
That for me is okay. Look at how controversial the rail project became. Again, do you think that if you allowed the business community in Nigeria to sit down and say, what are the needs? See, that's what really upsets me about Nigeria.
The vision is lacking, and the articulation of a coherent vision to the populace of Nigeria. Nobody could tell me today this is what this government is trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Everybody tells me that they are fighting corruption. How, why, and after they fight corruption, what is the end of corruption, or what's the victory over corruption? What is it going to look like?
How does it look like?
Nobody
Yes.
tells me that. All they tell me is he's fighting corruption. So anything he's doing, he's fighting corruption. But corruption is rampant everywhere, even within his administration. Where you could build a gate to the vice president's home with the entire budget of the Nigerian government. That is corruption. When you could not be able to account for any oil coming into Nigeria, leaving the ports of Nigeria, or any money coming in from the oil that you're
Sales.
lifting, that's corruption. When you cannot account for the money that was returned by foreign governments that were looted by
Prior government.
well, not even prior government, by Abacha, because he seems to be the only one that they're
that
returning
we've
his
gone
loot.
after.
Right.
Yes.
If you can account where that money is and what you're doing with it, that's corruption. Everything I see is corruption. So fighting corruption and the results of fighting corruption look the same. What am I supposed to think?
Yeah.
There is no coherent vision. So even when a good idea such as ranching, as the nice paper put it, comes out, there are corrupt things that you could look at them and see the same thing you see every day.
That's the point.
There is corruption in the idea.
Every Nigerian knows. Every Nigerian knows that anything that is government driven has not worked well for us. Every Nigerian knows that.
How do we start changing that mindset?
By insisting, first of all, like I said, where we started with this ranching project.
Yes.
I think that if your state is one of those,
right,
if your state is one of those,
Yes.
you insist that unless it is certain things are put in place, you don't want it.
No, demand that you have it, but demand that is fair and available to all, and that is done with a requirement that is sensitive to the people, sensitive to the environment, sensitive to what needs to be in place for the future. Don't reject it outright, because then you give an arm to the people who are proposing this, who really don't want it to work anyway. But be able to reframe it so that it works better. It shouldn't just be limited to where the government wants to land grab. It should be open to any Nigerian, anywhere in Nigeria. Maybe there are preferred places because there is water in those areas. I know it's actually, somebody will tell me that because it flows from Kanji, follows the river Niger, moves up to Benue. I see that, but actually there's also one that flows. There's the Niger that actually pulls into the tributary into the Atlantic. There is water there too, and there are oases and there are wells and things you could do in the north for ranching. Actually, there are dry places in California. There are dry places in Arizona.
Yeah.
There are dry places in Montana. There are dry places in the US where ranching goes on every day, because there are technology and things you could do to be able to make sure that you alleviate some of those things that may be more difficult in those areas. But we do have farms even in the Arab regions of the world. They do ranching over there.
Well, go to Israel.
Yes.
No, and you see, for us, you don't even have to go that far. If you want to follow water, follow water. That's not the issue. What we're saying here is do it the right way. Don't use this project as an underhanded way,
a settlement project,
an underhanded way to win the war for the Fulani headsmen.
Yes.
Because that's what people think. If nobody has told the government of Nigeria, let me tell you now.
Yes.
It seems to Nigerians that you are finding an underhanded way to make sure that the Fulani headsmen get everything they want.
That's exactly right. Because this ranching thing, it sounds like a new idea to the Nigerian government, but it seems like it was something they were resistant for a while until they went and reworked it.
Yes.
Because
the
everybody go ranch, stop taking your cattle all over the place. This is not the first time they're hearing this.
Yeah.
But their proposal, it's a land grab. At least that's what it looks like. It's a way to build settlement for the Fulani people, to displace the communities they've been fighting to displace anyway.
Yes.
And Nigerians should say absolutely no to that, but Nigerians should say yes, great idea, this is how it should be implemented.
Yeah, like I said,
and the federal government should not be implementing anything as the federal
government.
Yes.
You create a working group. So this white paper that you have created, open it for public comment, at the end of which rework it in a guise that gives it the best chance for success.
Actually, it may even be best to apportion the money to the states and have them do requirements under your much more
again, a partnership between federal and state.
Yes, and then
that is done. Yes, and
state should not be running ranches either. And then between state and still going to be PPP on the states. So that's our take. But also we were talking about, well, we'll come back after this break and we'll continue the conversation. Welcome back to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it. We were talking about the PPP with regards to Nigerian proposal, the Nigerian government proposal for the National Livestock Transformation Plan. And so back to the Nigerian conversation. And we started off discussing the Nigerian treatment of Senator Abaraibe, and why people should actually let their voices be heard to make sure that the people who are in charge and who you put in charge of your welfare are not misusing their power to mistreat you. And if they are mistreating somebody who's high profile enough as a representative of a region, that is going to happen to you with less fanfare. So that's what we discussed first, and then we're talking about the proposal for the National Livestock Transformation Plan, where the Nigerian government have put out a paper about their idea to grow ranches, to do ranches in certain parts of Nigeria, And what we're saying is the paper looks great, sounds great, except sounds like a land grab. It sounds like a government getting in place where they shouldn't be. The government, yes, maybe has the resources and the money, and actually we know they do, but what we're asking is that they partner with the professionals through the states, make it a PPP, public-private partnership with Nigerian people. I know there's a foreign government entity that they're working with, and it's great that we have foreigners that are investing in Nigeria. After all, actually, there is a whole lot of money, and the international organizations that have invested in Africa, West Africa, Nigeria especially, have gotten in 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, sometimes 20 times their investment money back. It's great and welcome, but it should be allowed for the people.
Yeah, well, like you said, let's start with Senator Abaraibe. I am heartened to know that there's a lot of concern among certain quarters. I would like to see the outrage be more widespread. There are other senators that are sitting in Senate with him.
Yes.
He has friends.
Yes.
He has colleagues that they work together to sponsor bills and things like that. If this can happen to one of you, it can happen to all of you.
Not just one of you. Dino just came through the last time, so you may think you're safe now.
Yes.
You're
we spoke out very strongly when it was Dino Mele's
yes.
When he was going through his ordeal, because we felt very strongly that regardless of what the government felt they had against him, there was protocol to be followed.
There is due process for every citizen of Nigeria.
Nigeria is not the wild, wild west. You do things the proper way. Okay, his own is passed. Now it is Senator Abaraibe. Who knows who it will be tomorrow?
Do not ask for whom the bell tolls.
There you go. So on that, I am still calling, especially the people who should lead this charge. His senatorial district in Abia State. The people he's
representing, you're the ones.
This is your senator.
You're being denied of your representation.
You must come out and ask what's going on beyond his senatorial district, the southeast zone, because you look at a lot of the activities in the Senate, he speaks for his zone. Really?
Not only that, so if you think about the things that we touch, right? So the military decided to do a military exercise with tanks and armored vehicles, inside a community in a residential area, and disturbed and killed a whole bunch of people.
Yep.
And basically got away with it, if you ask me, because nobody has asked the right questions. Nobody has asked anything, and now senator representing the area, it's now so it seems to me Andy Bonasia one bought to an ogwe. So if the same thing keep happening to the same place, somebody's picking on you. Unless you tell them that you know that you're being picked on and that it's unfair and that it shouldn't go on, they will that's how bullies work. They will continue to do that.
Yeah.
So you either act now or it will be too late to act.
Yeah. And we are not in any way encouraging any kind of violent reaction.
No. If you do anything violent, you're giving excuses for the government to do.
That is not.
To use the agents.
There are better ways of registering your protest.
What we want is what the Martin Luther King, the Reverend Jr., called unarmed truth. You just want what the truth is. You want to know why is he being held, what's the truth, and why are you using that arm of the government. Why is EFCC involved? Why not a police action? Ask the right questions, and why not a search warrant? Ask the right questions. There are people, senior advocates of Nigeria, all those people who call themselves lawyers and get sworn in to uphold, to keep the law of the land, to interpret the law of the land. This is your profession that is getting a black eye, because when the judges give pronouncements and the judges make proclamations, it doesn't get carried out by the government. The same government will use law enforcement agents and break the law in trying to enforce the law. So how could you break this? When Moses broke the law that he's bringing down from the mountain, he had to go back again and get it right. So if the government is breaking the law that they are supposed to be keeping, where are the SANs? Where are the senior advocates of Nigeria? Where are the lawyers? Why are people not saying something?
And the question you have to ask yourself, what is the modus of EFCC? They must have a definition of what they are supposed to be doing.
The name says economic and financial crimes.
Okay. So if they are overstepping their boundaries,
But they have turned into political thugs.
why is the Senate? I would like to see a senator at least bring up a motion that perhaps we should disband the FCC.
Not just because I see a lot of YouTube videos of people standing in the Senate and making long-winded speeches that at the end nobody has said anything of meaning, of worth, and nobody has made any motion or brought up any bills. That is not what we are talking about. If you want to speak English to educate people in the university, go into a university hall and teach English. If you're going to make a motion, get up and do that. Don't just do long-winded speeches that end in nowhere.
You have the power to make law. That is what the Senate has.
That's
The
why
power
you
to
were-
make
that's
law.
what your representation says you're
Therefore,
supposed to do.
please use your power. I am calling out the Nigerian Senate. All of you with your Babariga and your Kwakwanso caps, stand up and defend the Nigerian people.
Yes.
It is, you are paid handsomely to do that. Do your job. Do your job.
Do your job.
If EFCC has decided it's going to be a rogue organization, somebody needs to call them to book.
And for those running for election, Moralo, Atiku, and even for those who are trying to support or float other people, like Kalo,
Okay, OUK.
all of you, this
Yes.
is the time to speak up. If you actually want this nation and you think you have the leadership qualities it takes to take care of it, or you know somebody who could, this is the time for you to speak up when the law of the land is being infringed and get it right.
You know, I think we should try to float a debate with
Yes.
these presidential aspirants for
Act-
our diaspora community.
This is an invitation to the nice part of the USA. Chicago in the summer is the best place to be.
Yes.
So we are
Come
inviting
and
all
tell
of
us
you.
what you want to do, what kind of Nigeria you want to see.
Call this station if you have no other number. If you don't have the email, call 773-942-7167 and let me know of your interest. Actually, you could reach the station also, 98.3 FM WGHC at gmail.com, or the better option, Straight Talk Radio at igboheritage.org. Straight Talk Radio, one word, at igboheritage.org. And we will get you set up for our upcoming debate. We'll get the logistics going. If you think you have what it takes, whether you are in Kafanchan or in Nigeria or wherever, let us know of your interest and we will set you up for our upcoming debate. Come tell us in diaspora what you think you're going to do for the country.
Yeah.
But first, take care of what's going on there right now. Speak up and let yourself be heard and make yourself known where you stand on what's going on in Nigeria.
Yes.
Public-private partnership, great idea on ranching. Welcome to the idea. Don't terrorize your residents. and
Don't use it
citizens.
as an excuse for land grab.
Yes. Well, we are coming close to the end of our time. Any last sentence?
I think we've covered a few topics nicely. I am hoping that people will comment. Even if you didn't have time to comment right now, you can go to our Facebook page and leave your comments there. We are always seeing them and we do respond if it's something that needs a response. Most important, Nigerians, wake up.
Yes, and the government of Nigeria needs active participation. What that means is you have to let your voices be heard. No violence. You have to let your voices be heard. Whether you're happy with your government or you're angry with your government, is good to, in a dialogue and conversation, let them know. Writing, calling your government officials and representation is one way to do that. But let them know so that you are actively participating in your today and tomorrow and in the governance of your nation. I think it was Martin Luther King who said that only unarmed unarmed truth and unconditional love, it's what's going to heal our world. So let's work towards that, so that this fear and suspicion of peoples is it's no longer obtainable in our world. And that's it for me. Wasinta Kaichono Walenchi.
Divine there one.
Dalo.
You're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM.
Why yo, but we are nothing's friend. From see the first time, up to trust in stand. Why yo, get anything you like. Long as you are right, then me alright. Me know your man, that's why I'm alive.
Your voice, your music.
Whether me in a skirt or jeans or short shorts, make race when me walk past. Me feel the eyes, believe the eye, me love the light.